All right, so let's dive into something we've all been seeing lately.
Yeah.
AI for
Mm.
everyone. Like,
Yeah.
is that even possible?
Right.
You sent us this excerpt from a book chapter by Peter Vertigem called
Oh, yeah.
Introduction, Why We Need Critical Perspectives on AI, and it asks some really big questions.
It really does.
Like, can AI actually benefit all of us, or is it going to make the gap between
Mhm.
the haves and have-nots even bigger?
It's a question a lot of people are asking, and
Yeah.
Vertigem really gets at the heart of this whole debate.
So today we are going way beyond the hype to help you understand this complex landscape.
Yeah,
We're going to break down his arguments
absolutely.
and make sure you leave with a clear idea of the potential impacts of AI on society.
Hmm.
You know, it's funny. Everyone's talking about AI as if it's something brand new,
Right.
but this isn't really some overnight thing.
No, not at all.
What is it?
The term artificial intelligence has been around since the 1950s. So we've actually been grappling with this idea for over 6 decades.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So how did they even define artificial intelligence back then?
Well, there are a few different ways to think about it.
Right.
Some researchers focused on creating machines that could think like humans,
Okay.
while others focused on machines that could act like humans.
So like two very different
Yeah, very different paths.
paths, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then today, when we hear about AI in the news, like which of these approaches
Yeah.
are we really talking about?
I think it's mostly about the acting human approach, but in a very specific way. Think of the Turing test,
Oh, right, yeah,
where a machine is trying to convince a human
right.
that it's also human.
Just through conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's be honest, most of the AI we see today
Yeah.
isn't about passing some kind of philosophy test or anything.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
The AI we see in our everyday life, like recommendations when you're shopping or spam filters in your email, that's what we call weak AI or sometimes narrow AI.
Okay.
And these AI systems are designed to do specific things
Okay.
and often do them better and faster than humans.
So are these weak AIs actually thinking
That's a great question,
at
Al.
all, or?
It's where machine learning comes in.
Okay.
These weak AI systems are powered by algorithms
Okay.
that learn patterns and make predictions
Mm-hmm.
based on massive amounts of data.
So not really thinking the way we think,
Not in the way that humans think.
but just really good at processing.
Yeah. Incredible tools for analyzing information
Yeah.
and doing those specific tasks.
So it's not about like intelligence as we know it,
No,
but about processing power
you got it.
and pattern recognition.
And that brings us to a crucial point. Data. AI, especially this week, AI thrives on data.
Yeah.
The more data it has access to, the better it becomes.
Mhm.
But that raises the question, who controls the data?
Right.
Who gets to decide how it's used?
Yeah.
And who benefits?
That's a great point.
And these questions of power are really at the heart of what Vertigem wants us to think about.
So even though AI might seem like a neutral technology,
Right.
it's really wrapped up in social and political forces.
Absolutely.
It's not just about lines of code.
No.
It's about who holds the power.
It's about power dynamics, and those are playing out on a global scale.
Absolutely.
Vertigem talks about how governments and corporations are racing to develop and deploy AI, each with their own vision.
Yeah, those visions don't always align.
They definitely don't.
You've got countries like China and the U.S. investing heavily
Yeah.
in AI for economic and military dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the EU taking this different approach
Right.
with its trustworthy AI framework.
Interesting.
It seems like everyone is trying to grab the wheel
Yeah.
and steer AI
Yeah.
in a direction that benefits them.
Yeah, it's fascinating. AI is becoming like this new battleground for global power and influence.
Mhm.
It's not just about the algorithms.
Yeah.
It's about whose values and whose interests are going to shape the future of AI and in turn, maybe the world.
So where do we fit in all of this?
Right.
We hear these big promises about how AI is going to solve all our problems, usher in a new era of prosperity.
Yeah.
But are we really asking who's actually going to gain the most from this?
That's the key question.
Yeah.
Vertigem says we can't just sit back and accept these promises.
Right.
We have to engage with this and demand a more equitable approach.
Okay, so we've talked about how AI is not just a buzzword.
Yeah.
It's a powerful force that's already shaping our lives.
There really is.
Entangled up in some serious power dynamics.
Definitely.
We've got a lot to unpack here.
We do.
So how do we make sure that AI benefits everyone?
Yeah.
How do we move towards this idea of radical democratization?
That's exactly what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm excited to hear it.
We'll look at what this actually looks like and
Yeah.
what we can do to create a more equitable AI future.
Awesome. Can't wait. All right, stay tuned.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a quick break.
All right.
So we left off talking about radical democratization.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
It does.
When we talk about AI,
Mm-hmm.
what does that even mean?
It's not about like overthrowing governments or anything.
Right.
It's more about like a fundamental shift in power.
Right.
Like who gets to decide how AI is developed? Who benefits from it?
Right.
Who gets left out?
Yeah.
Those are the questions we need to ask.
Because like we talked about earlier, even these like AI for good projects,
Yeah, exactly.
they can sometimes feel a little
like a little superficial.
superficial. Yeah.
Right.
Like, is it all just marketing?
It's easy to use feel-good slogans and
Yeah.
ethical language to kind of mask what's really going on.
Mhm.
You know, Vertigem calls this ethics washing.
Ethics washing.
Yeah, and it's something we need to be aware of.
Okay.
He gives the example of facial recognition technology.
Oh, yeah.
On the surface, it might seem like a neutral tool
Right.
for identification,
Yeah.
but it's been shown to have serious biases
Okay.
against certain groups.
So even if we design these systems with good intentions,
Mhm.
they can still end up making inequality worse.
You got it. And it often comes down to the data.
Right.
If the data is biased, the AI is just going to reflect those biases.
So it's like teaching a kid with a textbook full of lies.
Exactly.
Like they're going to learn the wrong things.
Right.
So how do we get beyond all this talk about ethical AI?
Well, Vertigem lays out 3 guiding principles:
Okay.
accessibility,
Okay.
representation, and beneficial impact.
Okay, so first, accessibility.
Right.
What does that even look like?
Well, he argues that AI shouldn't just be for the elite.
Right.
It should be accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or their resources.
So we don't want to create a world where
Yeah.
only the wealthy and privileged have access to this powerful technology.
Exactly.
So how do we actually make it accessible to more people?
I mean, part of it is about better tools,
Oh.
platforms that are user-friendly,
Mhm.
so people can actually use AI even if they don't understand all the technical details.
So kind of like the early days of the internet.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
it was this complex thing that
Yep.
only a few experts understood, but then user-friendly browsers came along and
Yeah.
boom, everyone could use it.
So basically making AI more intuitive for the average person.
Yeah, and it's also about education.
Right.
Equipping people with the skills to use AI effectively.
Okay.
Not everyone needs to be a programmer.
Right.
But we do need a basic understanding of how it works and how it's impacting our lives.
Otherwise, we're just creating this huge digital divide
Absolutely.
where some people benefit and others get left behind.
And that ties into the second principle,
Yeah.
representation.
Okay. Yeah.
AI development can't happen in a bubble.
Right.
We need to make sure the people building AI represent the diversity of society.
Otherwise, we're just going to keep perpetuating the same biases.
Exactly. It's like having a government that's
Right.
only made up of one type of person.
Yeah. Their decisions aren't going to work for everyone.
Exactly. We need diverse voices involved at every stage.
Okay.
From data collection to design to testing.
Makes sense.
If we don't have that diversity, we'll just end up with AI that reflects the biases of a few.
Right. Not the needs of the many.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've got accessibility, we've got representation,
Yeah.
and then there's this idea of beneficial impact.
Right.
So making sure the AI is actually used for good,
That's the core of it.
not just for profit or power or whatever.
Yeah. Vertigem argues that we have to be intentional about how we use AI.
Okay.
It's not enough to just create powerful tools. We need to make sure they're used to address real human needs.
I mean, but who gets to decide what counts as beneficial impact?
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation we need to be having as a society.
It can't just be up to tech companies
No, it's not about that.
or governments to decide.
No, we need open and honest conversations about our values, our priorities.
Yeah.
What kind of future do we want to build?
It seems like these 3 principles,
Yeah.
accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
representation,
Yeah.
and beneficial impact,
Yeah.
they're all kind of connected.
They really are.
You can't really have one without the other.
You can't have true representation without accessibility.
Right.
And without a diversity of voices shaping AI, you're probably not going to get beneficial impacts for everyone.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory,
Mm-hmm.
but are there actual real-world examples
There are.
of this actually happening?
Yeah, it's still early, but a lot of people are putting these principles into practice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay, great.
We'll look at specific initiatives and movements that are working to make AI more accessible, more representative,
Yeah.
and ultimately more beneficial for all of us.
Okay, I'm excited to hear about it. Okay, so we've been talking about this radical democratization, making AI accessible,
Mm-hmm.
representative, and actually beneficial for everyone.
Right.
It's one thing to talk about it, but are there like real-world examples of this happening?
There are some really promising areas.
Okay,
One that comes to mind is open source AI.
okay.
These projects are making the tools and the building blocks of AI accessible to way more people.
So like taking that power away from the big tech companies?
Exactly. It's like taking it out of their hands
Okay,
and putting it into the hands of the community.
I like that.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities. So instead of AI being controlled by corporate interests, you have a much more diverse group of people
Right.
shaping it, making sure it's used ethically and for a broader range of purposes.
Are there any specific open source projects that come to mind?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
TensorFlow is a great example.
Okay.
It's a free and open source software library for machine learning and AI.
Okay.
It was originally developed by Google, but now it's used by researchers and developers all over the world.
So it's like even though Google is this huge company,
Yeah.
they're helping to make AI more open.
It shows that there's a recognition that AI can't be controlled by just a few.
Right.
And there are other examples too.
Okay.
PyTorch is another open source machine learning framework. It's becoming really popular.
Okay.
And then there's OpenAI.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
They're doing some really interesting work on AI safety
Right.
and promoting cooperation.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's this movement towards a more open and collaborative way of developing AI.
I think so.
What about the ethics part?
Right.
Are there groups out there making sure AI is being used responsibly?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
A lot of organizations are working on the ethical side of things.
Mhm.
One that comes to mind is the Algorithmic Justice League,
Okay.
founded by Joy Buolamwini.
Yeah, I've heard of her.
They're raising awareness about algorithmic bias,
Right.
especially with facial recognition.
Yeah, because we talked about how if these systems are trained on biased data,
Yeah,
they can discriminate.
exactly. And that's a real danger.
So they're trying to prevent that.
Yeah, they're pushing for more accountability.
Okay.
And then there's data for Black lives.
Okay.
They're using data science to address racial justice and inequality.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're doing some innovative work.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see people taking these ideas
Mm-hmm.
and actually putting them into practice.
Yeah.
It shows that this vision of a more democratic AI future isn't just some fantasy.
Absolutely. It's something that people are working towards right now.
And that's what's so exciting.
Yeah. The future is still being written.
Mm-hmm.
We can all play a role in shaping it.
Yeah. It's not something that's just going to happen to us.
We don't have to be passive.
Right. We have a choice.
Exactly.
It's about using AI as a tool
Yeah.
to create a more just and equitable world.
A world where everyone benefits.
Awesome. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
So thanks for helping us break all of this down.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a new way of thinking about AI, and maybe even inspired you to get involved in shaping its future.
Yeah.
The future of AI is in our hands.
Absolutely.
It's up to all of us to make sure it benefits everyone.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us.